What is the ultimate fear? Is it the fear of a monster you can see, or is it the fear of an enemy that is invisible, silent, and all-encompassing? An enemy that doesn't just take your life, it erases your very existence from the world. For nearly a century, one stretch of the Atlantic Ocean has been the epicenter of this fear. A place where the laws of physics and logic seem to break down. A place where hundreds of ships and aircraft have sailed in, and never sailed out. They call it the Devil's Triangle. We call it, the Bermuda Triangle. This is not just another list of strange disappearances. This is a deep, psychological autopsy of a modern legend. We will dissect the most famous and chilling cases, including the US Navy's Lost Squadron, Flight 19. And we will uncover the anatomy of a fear that has captivated the world. What really happened inside the Bermuda Triangle? Our investigation begins on a clear, sunny afternoon, December 5, 1945. World War II is over, and America is a nation confident in its technological and military might. At the Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers are preparing for a routine training flight. This is Flight 19. These were not rookie pilots. The flight was led by an experienced instructor, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, and his students were all competent naval aviators. Their mission was simple, a 3-hour patrol and navigation exercise over the Atlantic, a triangular route that would take them east from the Florida coast, then north, and then back to base. It was a flight they had all made before. It was supposed to be easy. At 2:10 p.m., the 5 massive bombers roared to life and took off into the clear blue sky. For the first hour and a half, everything was perfectly normal. But then the control tower at Fort Lauderdale received a strange and deeply unsettling radio transmission. It was Lieutenant Taylor, the flight leader, but his voice was not calm and professional. It was confused, anxious, and filled with a profound sense of disorientation. He reported that both of the compasses in his plane had failed. He said he was lost. He thought they were somewhere over the Florida Keys, but he couldn't be sure. This was the first sign that something was terribly wrong. An experienced instructor, flying in clear weather, with a flight plan he knew well, was completely and utterly lost. The control tower tried to guide him back, but the radio transmissions became more and more erratic. The other pilots in the squadron could be heard in the background, their voices a mixture of confusion and growing panic. They were flying in circles, their fuel tanks slowly draining, lost in a sky that should have been familiar. The final radio transmissions from Flight 19 are a chilling document of a group of highly trained men descending into chaos. They spoke of the ocean looking strange, of the sun being in the wrong place. Their sense of reality itself seemed to be breaking down. The last thing the control tower ever heard was a fragmented, desperate transmission as another pilot tried to take control, his voice barely audible over the static. "It looks like we are entering white water, We're completely lost." Then, silence. 5 US Navy bombers, and the 14 airmen aboard them, had just vanished in the middle of a clear afternoon, a few hundred miles off the coast of Florida. But the nightmare was not over. The Navy immediately launched one of the largest air and sea rescue missions in its history. A PBM Mariner flying boat, a massive search and rescue plane with a crew of 13, was dispatched to the last known position of Flight 19. 20 minutes after it took off, the Mariner also vanished from radar, and then, the crew of a nearby ship reported seeing a massive explosion in the sky. In the space of a few hours, 6 military aircraft and 27 American servicemen had disappeared from the face of the Earth, leaving behind no wreckage, no oil slicks, no bodies. The Bermuda Triangle had just claimed its most famous victims, and in doing so had given birth to its most enduring and terrifying legend. The loss of Flight 19 and the rescue plane that followed was a deep wound in the American psyche. In a nation that had just won a world war through its technological superiority, the idea that 6 of its advanced military aircraft could simply vanish without a trace was almost impossible to accept. The official Navy report, which concluded the incident was due to causes or reasons unknown, was not an answer. It was a vacuum. And into that vacuum, a new and terrifying legend was born. The first seeds of the myth were planted by journalists and authors in the early 1950s. They began to notice a pattern. They looked back at old maritime records and discovered other strange disappearances in the same general area off the coast of Florida. There was the case of the USS Cyclops, a massive US Navy cargo ship that vanished with over 300 men in 1918. There were stories of commercial airliners and private yachts that had sent a final strange radio message and were never heard from again. An author named Vincent Gaddis was the first to connect the dots. In a 1964 article for a pulp adventure magazine, he drew a triangular shape on a map, connecting Bermuda, Miami, and Puerto Rico. He filled this triangle with all the most famous and inexplicable disappearances and gave it a chilling, unforgettable name, the Bermuda Triangle. The idea was explosive. It captured the public imagination in a way that no single disappearance ever could. It was no longer just a series of isolated tragedies. It was a pattern. It was a place. A specific, cursed patch of the ocean where the laws of nature did not apply. From a psychological perspective, the creation of the Bermuda Triangle is a fascinating case study in how the human brain creates meaning out of chaos. We are pattern-seeking animals. The idea of dozens of unrelated random accidents is deeply unsatisfying, but the idea of a single mysterious force inside a defined geographical area provides a powerful, if terrifying, narrative. It gives the chaos a name and a location. The 1970s were the golden age of the Bermuda Triangle legend. The myth was supercharged by the publication of a best-selling book, The Bermuda Triangle, by Charles Berlitz. Berlitz was not a historian or a scientist. He was a master storyteller. He took the known facts of the cases, stripped them of their more mundane details, and wove them into a tapestry of high strangeness. He filled his book with theories that the official reports would never dare to consider. He wrote of time warps, of portals to another dimension, of strange magnetic anomalies that disabled compasses, and most compellingly, of extraterrestrial involvement. The theory that the Bermuda Triangle was a hunting ground for UFOs, a place where alien craft would abduct ships and planes for study, became the most popular and sensational explanation. The Bermuda Triangle was no longer just a mystery. It had become a modern myth, a piece of American folklore as potent as the stories of Bigfoot or the Roswell UFO crash. It was a perfect reflection of the anxieties of the age, the fear of unknown technologies, the distrust of official government explanations, and the thrilling possibility that we are not alone in the universe. But as the legend grew, the line between the facts of the cases and the fiction of the storytellers became dangerously, and often deliberately, blurred. The stories told by authors like Charles Berlitz were sensational, terrifying, and wildly popular. They were also, in many cases, a profound distortion of the truth. In the late 1970s, a new wave of researchers, most notably a librarian and pilot named Larry Kush, decided to do what the mythmakers had not. They went back to the original, primary sources. They meticulously examined the official naval reports, the declassified accident investigations, the original newspaper articles, and the historical weather data for every single disappearance attributed to the Bermuda Triangle. What they discovered was not a paranormal enigma, but a masterclass in the anatomy of a lie. The legend of the Bermuda Triangle, they found, was not built on a foundation of strange and inexplicable facts, but on a foundation of sloppy research, sensational exaggeration, and, in some cases, outright fabrication. Let's return to the foundational case, the one that started it all. Flight 19. The legend tells us they vanished on a clear, sunny afternoon. Larry Kush's research into the declassified Navy reports revealed that this was a lie. While the flight took off in clear weather, the official investigation concluded that by the time they reached their patrol area, they had flown directly into an unexpected and violent storm, with torrential rain and 40-foot waves. They were not flying in a calm sky, they were flying through a nautical hell. The legend tells us their final radio calls were strange and paranormal. The reality was more tragic and human. Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight leader, had recently transferred to the Fort Lauderdale base. He was unfamiliar with the local geography. The official Navy report concluded that he had likely become disoriented. His compasses had malfunctioned in the storm, and he had made a fatal navigational error, believing he was over the Florida Keys, when he was actually far out in the Atlantic, leading his patrol deeper and deeper into the empty ocean until their fuel ran out. And what about the rescue plane that mysteriously exploded? The PBM Mariner flying boats were notoriously known by Navy pilots as flying gas tanks, due to their propensity for fuel leaks. The crew of the ship that saw the explosion reported seeing a massive fireball exactly where the Mariner should have been. The most likely explanation was not a paranormal event, but a tragic and ultra-common mechanical failure. As researchers like Kush dug into the other famous cases, the same pattern emerged again and again. Disappearances that were listed as happening in calm seas had, in fact, occurred in the middle of documented hurricanes. Ships that were said to have vanished without a trace had actually sent distress signals reporting they were sinking or had been found as wreckage days later. Critical details were consistently and deliberately omitted from the story to make it seem more mysterious. The Bermuda Triangle, it turned out, was a manufactured mystery. It was a collection of unrelated tragedies, some of which were not even mysterious, all forced together into a sensationalist narrative for profit. The region of the Triangle is one of the most heavily trafficked shipping lanes in the world. It is also a place known for its violent, unpredictable weather and the deep, powerful currents of the Gulf Stream. Statistically, the number of disappearances in this area is no higher than in any other comparable region of the ocean. So why do we believe the psychology is powerful? We are drawn to mystery. We are captivated by stories that hint at a world beyond our own mundane reality. The legend of the Bermuda Triangle provides a thrilling, a supernatural explanation for the simple, brutal fact that the ocean is a dangerous place. It is, perhaps, more comforting to believe that your loved ones were taken by a mysterious force or a UFO than to accept the random, meaningless violence of a storm. The Bermuda Triangle is not a real place on a map. It is a place in our minds. It is a testament to the power of a good story to become more real than the truth itself. And so, the Phantom of the Devil's Triangle is revealed. It is not a paranormal vortex, an alien hunting ground, or a gateway to another dimension. It is a ghost story, a myth manufactured from a combination of sensationalism, shoddy research, and our own deep human need to find patterns in the chaos. The ships and planes were real. The tragedies were real, but the triangle itself was a work of fiction. But to simply say the mystery is solved is to miss the most important and most profound part of this story. The most fascinating question is not what happened to the ships, but why. For over half a century, has the world been so desperate to believe in the legend? This is the final and most important part of our psychological autopsy. The Bermuda Triangle is a perfect anatomy of a modern myth. In the ancient world, people told stories of sea monsters and angry gods to explain the terrifying and unpredictable nature of the ocean. The Bermuda Triangle is simply a modern version of those same stories. We have replaced the Kraken with UFOs, and the Wrath of Poseidon with mysterious energy fields. But the underlying psychological need is exactly the same. The myth provides a grand, supernatural narrative for the simple, brutal truth that the ocean is a dangerous and indifferent place, and that sometimes, tragic, random accidents happen. The legend thrived in the 20th century because it was a perfect reflection of the anxieties of the age. In a world grappling with the new and terrifying power of nuclear energy, strange technologies, and the paranoia of the Cold War, the idea of a place where science and logic break down felt strangely plausible. It was a story that confirmed our deepest fears, that we had created a world so complex and so powerful that we could no longer control it. The story of the Bermuda Triangle is not just about a place. It's about our relationship with the unknown. It is a chilling reminder of how easily a good story can become more powerful than the truth. It shows us how a few, compelling, and emotionally resonant ideas can create a belief so strong that it becomes immune to facts and evidence. This is the ultimate lesson from the ghost ships of the Atlantic. The real unknown compelling force was not in the ocean. It was in our own minds. It was the power of a good story, the hunger for mystery, and the deep human need to believe that there is something more out there, lurking just beyond the edge of the map. And so, the final investigation is now passed to you. Why do you think the legend of the Bermuda Triangle has remained so powerful for so long, even after being debunked? Is it just a good story, or does it speak to a deeper fear in our modern world? Leave your theory in the comments below. Let's dissect the anatomy of this powerful modern myth together. Because the story of the Bermuda Triangle teaches us one final, haunting lesson: the most dangerous and mysterious places are not on any map. They are the ones we build inside our own imagination.